But Dave, I really want to explore something a little further, and it's back to when we were talking about the report card and the F's and focusing on strengths. So what do we do when we see that F in one of our team members? How do we address that with them in a way that helps them focus on it positively and empowers them to grow?
That's a really hard one. Because we don't want to be critical, we don't want to point the finger, but we also need to point out that if you want to continue to grow, and I want to say it's about using the word growth a lot, growth and performance, right? How do you, because most people want to know how they can lift that up, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's also about right person, right job, right? Because sometimes that person might not be suited for those certain things they're scoring an F on. So we may want to take a step back and say maybe we need to shift the perspective and make sure that the focus of their job is going to be where they're strong. So maybe as managers we need to ask ourselves if they're getting an F in that one area, maybe that's not their area of competency. Maybe we need to shift them within the organization. Or, if I could recall a personal experience, one of a manager that I've worked with who is an incredible leader was very much a coach. She was very much a part of my development. And she always wanted me to get the promotion. And I knew that she wanted nothing but the best for me. So I knew that if I wanted to get better, I needed to look at those things I wasn't so good at and go to her for help. So she opened the door to help me. So I knew that if I wasn't doing something particularly well, she'd be there to support me. And it would be highly collaborative in terms of how we work through that problem together.
I'd like to add to that in my experience as well. When I think about helping someone improve lesser strength, it's called sometimes, or what is your growing edge, I think the best first approach to do is to ask them, what areas are you struggling in? And pretty often, they're harder on themselves in that area than you are on them. That's the one thing that, and if they're hard on themselves in that area, it definitely starts to affect their other areas, which affects confidence and all these things, right? So if you put it to them and say, where do you need to grow? That's a great first step because they're probably going to deliver it right to you and you'll say, great, okay, so now it's about, we've identified your strengths, we know what you're great at, now we've identified this area where you need to grow, and so we start to look at what resources are available to support you. So it's not about them as a person, it's about filling in with resources, right? So with one of the clients we work with, they call it scaffolding. So I'm really great at these things, but I need some scaffolding to support me to grow up. And so what are those, right? Those pieces that will help me be better. And a lot of the time, it's about just allowing that person to share it to you. If not, then if you're going to have to deliver it in feedback, my trick that I always share with people is to frame it around the business. To say, here's what the business needs, and I've been noticing that it's an area we could improve in as a team, and I'd like you to step in on that with us, right? So how can you start to contribute? Because that's really missing for us as a team or a business.
Okay,
so
I almost want to give you a high five on that piece, because what I really like that we were talking about is also coming from a place of strength where you can ask your team what went really well, what did you do well, where are some areas what would you do differently next time, right? Because if they self-identify, it holds way more weight than if you point it out as a leader. And if they've self-identified, you don't need to say, oh yeah, you're right, you need to be able to pull up your socks there. They know they need to pull up their socks in that area.
Right.
So we don't need to reinforce that, but we need to support them in how they're going to do it.
Yes. Have a conversation about tools and resources,
and
not about the person.
They will self-identify.
Yeah.
They'll self-identify.
So this comes back to the self-evaluation tool that we've created for you, the members, and it's about the team and the people on the team identifying their own strengths, their own skills, and then it also comes down to the feedback tool where you give them an opportunity to reflect before getting feedback as well, right? So make sure to use those tools that we've built for you. Now, just to wrap up the conversation, I'd love if you can share with us one piece of advice that you give to every leader going into a feedback conversation.
All right. I think we always need to ask ourselves as a leader, are we building people up or are we tearing them down? Because if we're tearing them down and we're killing their confidence, they're not going to have that confidence they need to be in front of your guests, who are your paying customers. So at the end of the day, we need to always ask ourselves, am I part of a movement that's building people up, or am I part of the movement that's tearing people down? And if I'm part of the movement that's tearing people down, I need to figure out how I do it differently. So that it's about empowering people to be better.
Nice. Great. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks, guys, for checking out the video, and definitely link back to those resources to support you in these areas of your business.